Episode 60. Here is episode 63 of the Mr. Ben Little Miss Book Readings. Little Miss Helpful. I must warn you, it's going to be very dangerous. Little Miss Helpful was one of those people who love to help other people, but who end up helping nobody. Do you know what I mean? Well, for instance, like the time when one of Mr. Tall's shoelaces came undone. Now, if you're as tall as Mr. Tall, tying your shoelaces isn't the easy thing in the world, as you can imagine. "Let me help!" cried Little Miss Helpful, rushing up. And guess what happens? Well, you don't need to, because then, somehow or other, she managed to tie Mr. Tall's shoelaces together, and he fell over. And if you're as tall as Mr. Tall, falling over hurts. Bang! Ouch! He said, rubbing his head. "Let me help!" cried Little Miss Helpful, and rushed off to get some sticky plaster, and rushed back and stuck it on Mr. Tall. "Over his mouth!" he said. He was trying to say, "Take it off," but that's rather difficult to do with sticky plaster stuck over your mouth. Little Miss Helpful looked at him with concern. "Let me help!" she cried, and ripped the sticky plaster off his mouth. "Ouch!" she cried. "That hurt!" "Would you like me to get some cream for your sore mouth?" she asked anxiously. "No," he groaned. "Go away." Now do you know what I mean about people who like Little Miss Helpful who help nobody? Now, last year in April I think it was, Mr. Happy woke up feeling not very well. The doctor had to be called, and he came to Mr. Happy's house, which is on a hill by a lake. "Oh dear," said the doctor when he saw Mr. Happy. "Measles!" Mr. Happy's face fell. "Now you're to stay tucked up nice and warm in your bed, and get lots of rest, and take this medicine 3 times a day," said the doctor, and went. Mr. Happy settled down to sleep. He had just fallen asleep when there was a loud knock at the door. "Oh dear," groaned Mr. Happy, and staggered off to answer it. You can guess who it was, can't you? "I've come to help," Little Miss Helpful cried. "But," protested Mr. Happy. "But nothing," cried Little Miss Helpful. "Now off to bed with you, while I get on with everything." She looked around. "This place needs a good clean," she said. Mr. Happy had just dropped off to sleep again when Little Miss Helpful poked her head around his bedroom door. "Have you got a scrubbing brush?" she asked. Poor Mr. Happy had to get up and show her where it was, and then he went back to bed, to sleep. Now here comes the funny bit. Little Miss Helpful stepped back to admire the kitchen floor she'd just scrubbed. Little Miss Helpful stepped back to admire the kitchen floor she'd just scrubbed. And trod on the soap. And fell head over heels. And got her head stuck in the bucket. And, because she couldn't see where she was going, she walked into a shelf full of saucepans, which fell all over the floor with a terrible clatter. And, because she couldn't see where she was going, Little Miss Helpful stepped in one of the saucepans, and it got stuck on her foot. And, because she had to hop, she fell over against the refrigerator door, which flew open, and everything inside fell out, all over Little Miss Helpful. What a mess. Poor Mr. Happy awoke with a jump at the terrible commotion. He groaned, got out of bed, went to the kitchen, and opened the door. He couldn't believe his eyes. There in the middle of a pile of broken eggs and a scrubbing brush and rolling saucepans and a lot of water and spilt milk and squash butter and bent saucepan lid and a piece of soap, sat Little Miss Helpful with a bucket on her head and a saucepan on her foot. "Help!" came a voice from inside the bucket. And Mr. Happy seized the bucket and pulled as hard as ever he could, and pulled and pulled and pulled, and then pop! The bucket came off the top of Little Miss Helpful's head like a cork out of a bottle. Mr. Happy shot backwards like a bullet from a gun. Crash! He went flying through the kitchen door. He shot across the garden and straight through his garden hedge. He rolled down the hilly field behind his garden, faster and faster, and splash! he finished up in the lake with the bucket in his hand. And a little figure with a saucepan on one foot came half running, half hopping out of little Mr. Happy's house. Do you know who that was? You can guess who that was, can't you? Let me help, she cried. Bet that was funny, wasn't it?